Back in 1928, a man named Walt Disney invented animation, revealing it in the form of an 8-minute short film called Steamboat Willie. Then in 1937, following the invention of color, he created Disney's Infinite Cinema for kids, beginning with a little movie called Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, which tells the tale of a princess who breaks into the home of a family of midgets. Sorry, I hear that's offensive now. I meant it's about a squatter who hangs out with a bunch of minors. That actually might sound worse. In the decades since, the DICK has expanded, now including tales of talking animals, sleeping beauties, flying children, and cross-dressing Chinese girls. Eventually, in 1992, the Disney Kingdom expanded to the Middle East with their adaptation of T.E. Lawrence's Arabian Nights.
What's your name?
Aladdin.
Aladdin! Hello, Aladdin. Nice to have you on the show. Can we call you Al, or maybe just Din?
The movie begins with a merchant riding his camel through the desert while singing a little tune to himself. Everything seems more or less fine until he arrives at his destination and we see the poor animal collapse nearly dead. I really do hope the beast is okay. Few things are worse than achy camel toes. The merchant sets up shop, and fun fact, if this were set in 21st century America, he'd be selling his items on eBay. And if it were set in the 21st century Middle East, it'd be exactly the same as portrayed. We are greeted by the man and he begins to break the fourth wall, introducing us to the land of Agrabah and telling of a lamp he has in his possession which he claims once changed a young man's life. Seems far-fetched, but maybe it spilled oil on his lap during a date, or someone caught him putting his pee-pee in it. I can't decide if this makes me hesitant to hear this story, or more excited. The merchant begins the tale and he opens with the following line.
It begins on a dark night, where a dark man waits with a dark purpose.
That's racist.
Darkman and his parrot Iago meet with this sweet piece of eye candy and he provides for them half of a golden scarab. If you don't know, scarabs are a classification of beetles of which there are about 35,000 species. They're also what George, Ringo, John, and Paul called themselves whenever they visited the Middle East. Just kidding, the Beatles never toured the Middle East. It's basically the one region where they never blew up. Kind of ironic. Anyway, Darkman pulls out the other half and puts the scarab together and it leads them across the desert before breaking apart and forming the eyes on a mound of sand. R.I.P. little guy. The mound forms into the head of a massive feline and Darkman exclaims that he has finally found the Cave of Wonders. He instructs the thief to fetch the lamp inside, however the cat face stops him and says, unlike your mom, only one may enter.
One whose worth lies far within, the diamond in the rough.
The thief, clearly of the more rough variety, is then devoured when he tries to enter again. Not likely the result he wanted, but there are worse ways to go out than being consumed by mad pussy. Also, for a cartoon, it's pretty cool to see that they're taking the OnlyFans model approach and quickly establishing a body count. Then the Cave of Wonders growls a last message before sinking back into the sand. Sorry, could you repeat that one more time? What the f*** is a Rymond? Also, is the rule about only one person being allowed to enter a generational thing? It would have to be, right? How would you even have a lamp legend otherwise? But that also means the previous owner put the lamp back into the cave once they were finished with it.
What an ass.
Right?
Moving on, now it's daytime in a local marketplace and here we meet young Aladdin, who has apparently just stolen a loaf of bread. He survives a fall from several stories high, but one of the guards in pursuit catches up to him. Aladdin's pet monkey Abu blinds the fellow temporarily and our titular hero suddenly starts singing. Cartoon worlds are weird. Imagine hooking up with a girl on a one-nighter and suddenly she breaks out into a playful tune critiquing your performance. Don't complain about it being 3 minutes long, babe. That was the length of your song. It would have been awkward if we just kept going. Also, Aladdin is basically just giving a catchy confession about how he steals everything he can and avoids the authorities. Pretty much the same MO as Jack the Ripper or the Zodiac Killer. Funny enough, as the lad is singing, he's basically creating material for the next confession, as this sequence contains quite a few crimes. Once he escapes, Aladdin gives his bread to some homeless children, which at first seems like a selfless act, but he's actually made them into accomplices. If he were really concerned over their hunger, I think he would have given them a boo. Monkey bread is quite tasty. A wealthy fellow is then shown en route to the palace, identified as a suitor for the Princess of Agrabah. Aladdin rudely heckles the man after he sternly warned those same homeless children about crossing a busy road, but he retorts by calling Aladdin a worthless street rat.
You were born a street rat, you'll die a street rat, and only your fleas will mourn you.
Harsh but accurate. Seriously, what's keeping him from getting a job? Or having living parents? Defeated, Aladdin walks home, singing about how he's more than what he seems.
Someday, Abu, things are gonna change. We'll be rich, live in a palace, and never have any problems at all.
You could have a chance at the first one if you got yourself a job, you know. For the second, you'll need to marry royalty, and for the third, that's only possible if you're dead and in heaven. The following day, the suitor from before comes storming into the palace from outside. As he walks away, we see his undies via a freshly torn opening ripped in his trousers. When the Sultan fails to calm the man, he goes outside to speak with his daughter, though is quickly confronted by her pet tiger Raja, who has the suitor's underpants in his mouth. Wait, how does that work? Shouldn't the tiger have the cloth from his pants? Not the plot hole I was expecting. Also, for a country which appears to be predominantly Muslim, the Sultan seems pretty loose about how his teenage daughter Jasmine dresses. Where he's more strict is in his insistence that she has to marry a prince before she turns 16. Sweet home Agrabah, am I right, guys? Jasmine, however, insists that she wants to marry for love and that she feels cooped up, having never been outside the palace walls. She questions whether she even wants to be a princess. Her father leaves exasperated and forbids a confused Raja about having daughters, but I'm not sure cats are trained in the art of the pull-out game. Probably a visit to the vet in his future. The Sultan returns to the palace, and Darkman from the film's beginning stands before him. His name is Jafar, and he is apparently the Sultan's royal vizier. He's asked what should be done about Jasmine and suggests he might be able to find a solution with the help of a mystic blue diamond on the Sultan's ring. He puts his staff in the Sultan's face and he agrees to the exchange. Unlike when I do it and the GameStop manager asks me to leave. As Jafar and his bird depart, we get an insight into his plans to unseat the ruler and take the throne for himself.
And then I stuffed the crackers down his throat.
Phrasing.
Later that evening, we learn that Jasmine apparently has some peasant clothes stashed away and is wearing them as she escapes the palace. And she's abandoning her tiger right before her father is about to neuter him. Cruel and irresponsible. The next morning, we catch up with Aladdin in the marketplace where he and Abu steal fruit from a local merchant. Turns out Jasmine is at the same location walking past the various shops before bumping into a fire eater. Aladdin looks over and is immediately taken aback by the little hottie. She's cute too. She notices a hungry child and she hands him an apple from a fruit stand, and failing to pay, the shop owner readies to cut off her arm. The kid just walks away too. Not even a thanks for what's about to be the worst trade since Ellen for Elliot.
Emotional, damn it!
Aladdin intervenes and pretends to be her brother and caretaker, telling the owner that his sister is a mental patient who worships monkeys. He then tricks the man into thinking he's retrieved his stolen good. I've heard of robbing Peter to pay Paul, but Aladdin impressively robbed Paul to pay Paul. That's a lot of P sounds. Cut over to Jafar, who uses the Sultan's diamond to look into the sands of time to discover who the diamond in the Rymond in the rough actually is. Turns out to be Aladdin. Wow, it is pretty good fortune that Jafar had the sands of time at his disposal, as well as the Sultan's ring, which apparently is essential to its function. Will this incredible power he has at his disposal be used or abused to further his ends anymore in this movie? No. No, it won't. Back with Aladdin, who is showing Jasmine his and Abu's place, and she seems quite taken with the idea of coming and going as one pleases. Aladdin downplays the benefits of poverty, though admits the view is nice. She doesn't seem too impressed when Aladdin makes over the palace, and both begin to complain about their circumstances, and while those are very different, they find themselves sharing similar feelings of being trapped. Him by his status as a penniless orphan, and her by being a well-off sovereign who can have whatever she wants. Poor people and filthy rich royalty really are the same at the end of the day. Jasmine tells Aladdin about her father forcing her to marry, and they almost share a smooch, but thankfully the guards show up to stop the 18-year-old thief from stealing a minor's innocence. Aladdin's arrested, and Jasmine tries to use her position of authority to have him released like she's Joe Biden with a presidential pardon. The guard, however, informs her that his orders come from Jafar and that she'll need to take it up with him, which she does, but he informs her that she is too late and that his sentence has already been carried out.
What sentence?
Death. By beheading.
No.
Jasmine cries to her tiger about how the peasant's death was her fault and how she didn't even know his name. This is the closest movies get to female accountability. A confession to a cat.
Women.
Though it turns out Aladdin isn't quite as dead as Jafar made him out to be. He's locked in some kind of sex dungeon and left to mope about how stupid he must have sounded to the princess. Abu arrives, and after scolding his pal for simpery, he frees him from the restraints. Then an old man sharing the cell tells him that they can help one another, informing him of a place called the Cave of Wonders and speaks of how it is full of treasure. Who knows how long this creepy fellow was right under Jafar's nose with that information. And look, he has a parrot too. Aladdin points out the glaring problem that the cave is outside the walls while they're stuck inside, but Mr. Oldman shows him that this sex dungeon has holes other than the ones belonging to prisoners. After journeying through the desert, Aladdin stands before the giant cat head and is allowed to enter, though he's told to touch nothing but the lamp.
Remember, boy, first fetch me the lamp, and then you shall have your reward.
The cave literally just told him that he cannot touch anything else. He even reiterates this to his monkey while entering the cave. Seriously, what does Aladdin think he's getting out of this deal? While the boy and Abu search inside, they awaken a demonically possessed rug. After a somewhat testy meet and greet, the carpet agrees to show them the location of the lamp. While Aladdin ascends a large staircase to acquire the object, Abu spots a massive ruby. Carpet tries to pull the monkey away, but just as the boy takes the treasure they came to retrieve, the little simian does his best Winona Ryder impersonation as he nabs the jewel, causing the cave to erupt in anger. Everything crumbles around them, and Aladdin is almost thrown into lava, but Carpet is there to rescue him and Abu soon after. Then, like a wool-cotton Chad, the rug navigates our heroes through the destruction like Lando flying out of an exploding Death Star in Return of the Jedi. Unironically, this is one of the best sequences in the movie. As they're approaching the exit, a falling rock sends Carpet back down to the depths while Aladdin and Abu hang on for dear life. The boy reaches for the hand of the old man who is waiting for them, but he first demands the lamp. It is given to him and he thanks the boy by pulling a knife, revealing he was Jafar all along. But just as he's about to stick the lad, Abu bites his arm and Aladdin falls, with the monkey not far behind as he's thrown down in retaliation. Now he knows what his own poo feels like. Carpet once again comes through in the clutch and catches both of them before the fall can kill them. The Cave of Wonders sinks back into the sand, and as Jafar searches for his newly acquired toy, he finds it to be missing and cries out in despair.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it.
Aladdin awakens, and it turns out Abu finally put his thievery to good use by lifting the object off of Jafar. Though despite this small victory, it's hard not to feel bad for our hero. He delved deep into the Cave of Wonders, rode the magic carpet, touched the forbidden treasure, and now all that's left is to rub one out. Sounds like a pretty rough Saturday night. Though unlike such a bad evening, the rubbing in this case releases a genie who hasn't seen the light of day for 10,000 years, though he seems to have a pretty strong grasp of modern culture. Aladdin is informed that he is Genie's new master and has 3 wishes at his disposal. Though since he is in a state of disbelief, Genie performs a pretty spectacular song and dance number to explain and show what he's capable of. He does everything from conjuring food, to treasure, to wispy thoughts who grind on the hero's pelvic region. Aladdin asks if he can wish for anything he wants, to which Genie replies with a few exceptions. No wishing for more wishes, no killing, no making anyone fall in love, and no raising the dead. Aladdin mocks these limitations, suggesting Genie probably couldn't even help them escape the cave. Genie rises to the bait and flies them to freedom like Harriet Tubman if she had been tricked into rescuing slaves via the Underground Railroad.
Are you allowed to say stuff like that?
Meanwhile, the Sultan scolds Jafar for beheading his daughter's friend, to which he apologizes. I really miss the good old days where accidentally decapitating an innocent person only garnered a light reprimand. We've really gone soft as a society. Jasmine declares that once she is queen, she'll have the power to get rid of Jafar, and I cannot help but shake my head at Disney's lack of research. The wife of a sultan doesn't carry the title of queen. She'd be called something like Permaseri, Haseki, Sultana, or my personal favorite, Penguin. Jafar fumes over having lost the lamp, while Iago groans over the idea of having to feign fealty to the Sultan and his daughter for the rest of their lives. Jafar corrects the bird and says it will only be until she's married, and this gives Iago an idea. What if Jafar married her? Despite her status as a minor, Jafar thinks this to be a grand notion.
I love the way your foul little mind works.
Foul. Solid bird pun. Cut back to Aladdin, whom Genie drops off at an oasis, bragging that he can indeed do as he says. Aladdin acts impressed, then inquires about his 3 wishes, but Genie corrects him by saying he's down to 2. Aladdin, however, clever wanker that he is, informs him that he never actually wished to be freed. Outsmarted, Genie declares no more freebies while his new master wonders what he should use these wishes on. Surprised by the question, Genie reveals if he could have any wish, it would be for freedom, which he can only have if his master wishes for it. Aladdin agrees to do just that after his first 2 wishes, which sounds altruistic, but keep in mind, he's only willing to free his newfound slave after he's done what he wants. Also, I wonder what Genie would have used the other 2 wishes on. I think in his shoes I'd probably ask for a round with Prime Barbara Eden with wish number 2, and a gaming PC with wish number 3. He begins to go on about Jasmine and his desire to be with her, but he's reminded that Genie cannot make people fall in love. Aladdin realizes that to have a chance he'd have to be a prince and asks if that can be accomplished. Genie says he can do just that and grants him the wish. Though I cannot help but wonder how that is achieved. Of which country is Aladdin now a prince? Did Genie have to unseat a current ruler? We know he didn't kill any of them since he can't, so is Aladdin now a usurper? Or did Genie create a whole new country? Does it have a population? Resources? An economy? Do other countries trade with it? Or maybe he just took an unclaimed piece of land and quietly turned Aladdin into its ruler. At least until somebody not in the know decides they want it. But hey, that could take decades. Plus Genie is turning the monkey into an elephant, so now I'm properly distracted and oh look at the pretty fireworks. Back at the palace, Jafar tells the Sultan that he's found a solution to the marriage issue with Jasmine. He unravels an ancient terms and conditions file and reads that if a suitable suitor cannot be found, then the princess must then be wed to the royal vizier.
That would be... me.
I think he made that up. And the Sultan doesn't seem too keen on the idea either, but Jafar flashes his staff again to sway the ruler to his position. Really starting to wonder why Jafar hasn't just hypnotized the man into stepping down and appointing him. This particular attempt to overpower his mind, however, is interrupted by a spectacular procession coming toward the palace, announcing the arrival of Prince Ali Ababwa, who is really just Aladdin. And wow, he has a lot of people he apparently rules over. Time to revisit the question of how this works. According to the Aladdin wiki, Ababwa is a fictional kingdom the Genie created, and all of the servants, musicians, animals, slaves, and harem girls were conjured into existence via that same magic, and all of them lived to serve Ali. So Genie cannot kill or raise the dead, but he can create subservient artificial life? My mind is genuinely blown by the ramifications of this kind of power. I don't personally have a lamp or the help of magic to flesh out my own kingdom, so feel free to use the comments section as a sign-up sheet for these various positions.
Hello, ladies.
Prince Ali lands in the palace via his magic carpet, proclaims his desire to seek the hand of the princess, and lets the Sultan ride the rug. Literally, not like a euphemism. Once he's through, he excitedly asserts that Jasmine will like him, though Jafar objects to this potential match. Prince Ali confidently boasts that she need only meet him, and Jasmine, having heard this discussion, chides them all for trying to decide her future.
I am not a prize to be won.
Bit of a cell phone, Jazzy. While Ali and the Sultan go off to discuss matters, Jafar begins to scheme how he might rid himself of the newly arrived prince. Later that evening, Aladdin is angry with himself for screwing up with the princess, wondering how he might fix things. Genie suggests he try telling the truth, but Aladdin decides instead to fly up to her balcony uninvited. I approve of this strategy, by the way, though I'm jealous that he doesn't have to deal with obstacles like windows and locks. She turns him away, and Raja begins to growl at him. Aladdin has a bit of a tug-of-war with his headwear, and Jasmine sees that he looks just like the boy from the market. He insists that he isn't that person, and when he continues his attempts to woo, he is flatly rejected. He apologizes and startles Jasmine by walking off of the balcony. Once she sees he was caught by the magic carpet, she accepts his invitation for a ride. Honestly, this rug should be rubbing it in Genie's face that he has a power the Jinn doesn't possess. In a few short minutes, he's endeared Aladdin to both the Sultan and to Jasmine. Buy yourself a flying carpet if you want the shortcut into a woman's pants. Or her father's.
Daddy, chill.
They fly through the streets, into the clouds, over to Egypt, then to Greece, and then rest in China. That is thousands of miles in one evening. I've even seen estimates that they would had to have been traveling close to 2,000 kilometers per hour or more during this journey. Kind of seems like this relationship has peaked before it even starts. Taking advantage of the jet-lagged prince, Jasmine says that it's a shame Abu had to miss the trip, and Aladdin says he hates flying and fireworks, inadvertently revealing his identity. He says he sometimes dresses as a commoner to escape palace life, which seems to work since Jasmine did the same thing the day they met. Note to self and to viewers, nothing gets a girl hotter than pointing out her hypocrisy. He returns the lady back home and they share a kiss after they've said their goodnights. As the carpet slowly descends, Aladdin basks in the euphoria of having won her heart, but once they near the ground, he is kidnapped by the palace guards at the behest of Jafar. They chain him to a metal ball and toss him into the sea. It's a pretty sly metaphor for the relationship he just entered into. His turban containing the lamp falls a few feet in front of him, and as he struggles to reach it, he passes out from a lack of oxygen, though the lamp slides into his hands and rubs against them. Genie emerges and sees his master dying before him, and rather than just going ahead and saving the boy, he decides he can only do so at the cost of a wish. I mean, he didn't need one whenever he flew Aladdin out of the cave, but now he suddenly can't save his life unless he wishes for it? Apparently saying no more freebies is a binding magical contract. Genie decides that a nod of Aladdin's head, which he causes, affirms his willingness to use the wish. One more note to self: if you can make them nod in their sleep, it counts as consent. Back in Jasmine's bedroom, the young lady brushes her hair dreamily while humming the song she and Aladdin sang together while flying all across the northern and eastern hemispheres. The Sultan enters the room and declares that she will marry Jafar. Stunned, she tells her father that she chooses Prince Ali, whom Jafar insists has left. But much to his surprise, the young man appears and demands he admit the attempt on his life. Jafar says Aladdin's obviously lying, but the lad grabs his staff and shatters it, breaking the trance the Sultan was in. He calls for the guards, but Jafar manages to escape, though not before noticing that Aladdin is carrying the lamp. For a moment, the Sultan bemoans the betrayal by his most trusted advisor, but then realizes his daughter has finally chosen a husband. He embraces his soon-to-be son-in-law and declares they'll be happy, prosperous, and that Prince Ali will one day become Sultan, an announcement Aladdin seems greatly troubled by. Frankly, so am I. They've known him for a day. Agrabah's process for vetting future husbands and rulers seems dangerously loose. Again, much like your mom. Jafar, meanwhile, laughs hysterically, realizing that the young prince is actually Aladdin. Then he and Iago scheme as to how they can steal the lamp from him. The following day, Aladdin frets over the idea of becoming ruler of Agrabah, but this moping is soon interrupted by Genie, who thinks it's time to celebrate. Not only that Aladdin is getting all that he wishes, but that it's time he cash in that promised freedom. The boy, however, says the only reason people think he's worth anything is because of what the genie has done for him, and since he cannot keep up the facade on his own, he cannot wish him free. Genie, feeling betrayed, retreats back into the lamp, and Aladdin gets a bit surly over his friend's attitude toward remaining an eternal slave. All the same, he realizes his friend is right about him being himself and that he's got to tell Jasmine the truth. And then he rubs the lamp and frees the genie, right?
Wrong!
This might seem like a simple oversight, but truth be told, the rest of the plot kind of doesn't happen without it. Iago uses the power of verbal catfishing by imitating Jasmine's voice calling for him, and off he goes while the bird lifts the lamp from his room. Aladdin meets with Jasmine, who ushers him to her father, who is announcing his daughter's betrothal, as well as Aladdin as the future ruler of Agrabah. Look at them clap like a herd of mindless seals.
Let them cheer.
Jafar watches from afar, hey, that rhymes, and then gives the lamp a rub. Genie emerges, thinking it's Aladdin ready to bother him again, only to find that he has a newer, less benevolent master, who immediately wishes to rule as Sultan. Jasmine's father is stripped down to his skivvies and Jafar is clothed in the royal garb. Aladdin makes to stop this, but realizes the lamp is no longer in his possession. Now he knows how those bread and melon merchants feel. When Jasmine and her father refuse to bow to Jafar, he wishes to be the most powerful sorcerer in the world. Wait, are there other sorcerers he's overtaking in this department, or is this a simple matter of him being the most powerful because he's the only one? Genie really should have thought about that, because he'd only have to make him the slightest bit more powerful to fulfill the wish, and if he's the sole sorcerer on the planet, then you could fulfill his demand by only giving him a useless power like bending spoons, instantly shaving cats, or voting in a North Korean election. Unfortunately, Genie doesn't think this through and makes Jafar pretty OP. Imagine arming your enemy with a tactical nuke when you could have gotten away with handing them a potato gun. Jafar turns his attention to Aladdin, magically forcing him before Jasmine and then removing the Prince Ali garb and revealing him in his commoner clothing.
So he's poor.
This is supposed to signify that he's being exposed, except Aladdin already told Jasmine it was him in the market. So how does this reveal anything? Did Genie actually make Jafar powerful enough to undo the wishes he's granted?
That was a mistake.
He sends the boy packing by launching him in a tower from Agrabah to an unidentified snowy tundra. Seriously, how does he survive this crash? He finds Abu and resolves to set things right, then begins trudging barefoot in the snow. He stumbles upon Carpet, who is trapped beneath the fallen tower, and then they try to dig the rug out, but the tower begins to roll. With no time to get out of the way, Aladdin positions them in such a way that the open window rolls over them, meaning they enter but touch no edges. It's a lot like one of Madonna's sexual partners. Now free, Carpet lets them aboard and they fly back to Agrabah, where presently Jasmine is dressed like one of Prince Ali's harem workers. Jafar offers once again to marry the princess, but she refuses. He moves to strike her, but then decides to wish that Jasmine would fall in love with him. As Genie tries to explain his inability to fulfill this request, the princess spots her boyfriend and starts to distract Jafar by pretending she has daddy issues. Aladdin sneaks over to the lamp and is spotted by Iago, but before the bird can give away the hero's position, 16-year-old Jasmine plants a smooch right on Jafari Epstein's mouth.
Why don't you have a seat?
Sadly, it's for nothing after he notices Aladdin's reflection in her crown. She goes for the lamp, but the old creeper stops her and unleashes a flurry of puns and prop-related humor.
Princess, your time is up! Don't toy with me! Things are unraveling fast now, boy! Get the point? I'm just getting warmed up!
Then, after Aladdin calls him a cowardly snake, Jafar turns himself into one, sans the cowardice and with enough size to overcompensate if such is his need. I did think about trying to work in an erectile dysfunction joke for the snake scene, but I couldn't rattle one out, so I decided to shed the idea.
It's time to stop!
The two battle one another as Aladdin tries to free Jasmine from an hourglass, but Jafar captures him and wraps him in his coils. He reiterates Aladdin's fear that without Genie he is nothing, but the boy wisely uses this against the baddie, declaring that the Genie is more powerful than he'll ever be.
He gave you your power. He could take it away.
You're right. His power does exceed my own, but not for long.
Jafar then wishes to be made an all-powerful Genie, even though technically the Genie will have also given him this power. So I'm not sure by his own logic this solves the problem. The wish is granted, and as Jafar revels in his newfound power, Aladdin reminds him of the pros and cons of his new form.
Phenomenal cosmic powers.
Come on, you're the genie! I love
Itty bitty living space.
And then everything starts to get restored to what it was. Wow, wishing to be a genie undid all of Jafar's wishes? There's some fine print. Victorious, Aladdin apologizes to Jasmine for lying about being royalty, then says this is goodbye. She angrily bemoans the law as she loves him and wants to marry him. Seeing this, the genie tells Aladdin that he has his final wish and could use it to become a prince again. Aladdin asks what about his freedom, but Genie tells him not to worry about it. Eternal slavery is a small price to pay for the continuation of a day-old romance. Aladdin, however, cannot lie any longer about who and what he is, so he sets free his magical friend. When we first met him, Aladdin defiantly declared that he isn't worthless. Yet he deludes himself into thinking that he'd one day have everything he wanted and all his problems would be gone. Then he actually gets it all via the wishes, but it undermines his sense of self-worth because what is he without the magic? Now being stripped of his title, the prospect of great wealth, the promise of the hand of the lady he loves, he sets it all aside and follows through with his oath to the genie. It's a very nice piece of character development which completes a well-intended arc. There's just one little problem.
What? What do you mean?
Why does he need to make the wish to be a prince again? All Jafar did was give him a change of clothes. Why does that mean he's no longer royalty? Oh, but Gorge, you say. What Jafar did was expose him as a false prince. That's what undermined the wish. Then what will wishing for it again even accomplish? They all know his real identity, so isn't the same problem still present? If there truly is no other way to ensure he can both be a prince and have the hand of Jasmine, then why wouldn't you just go ahead with it and then hand the lamp over to Jasmine and have her free genie? Talk about a false dilemma. All the same, now the shackles are gone and he is a genie no longer, though his name is still Genie, and he appears to still be magical. Whatever, the two friends embrace and say their goodbyes. And the Sultan sees this exchange and says Aladdin has proven his worth as far as he's concerned.
From this day forth, the princess shall marry whoever she deems worthy.
And with this declaration, Jasmine chooses Aladdin, there's hugs all around, and off the lovebirds go aboard the magic carpet, and with a smooch and a sight gag, the movie ends.
Remarkable.
Aladdin truly is one of Disney's most remarkable and entertaining animated features. The animation itself is gorgeous, the soundtrack and score are wonderful, the characters are fun and engaging, and the tale the movie tells resonates on numerous levels. The pacing is outstanding, the voice performances are top-notch, and the humor holds up incredibly well more than 30 years later. All of that said, some of the criticisms I have mentioned are genuine ones. There are flaws ingrained within Aladdin's internal logic which do at times undermine some of the storytelling and character growth. These issues aren't so bad as to be pervasive, but they do bring the movie down a certain amount. All the same, Aladdin is an A-tier movie in my estimation, and one which can be enjoyed by people of all ages.
So enjoy it. Stop crying.
My thanks to everyone for watching today's video, and if you enjoyed it, do hit that like button, and if you decide to subscribe, yours truly would greatly appreciate it. No matter what you decide to do, know that I thank you for giving me that precious time of yours, and that I'll see you again real soon. God bless, and Godspeed.
Made you look.